Hi and welcome back. Thanks for joining me. So today, slightly different kind of thing for me. I went down to my local record shop last Friday, I think it was, and this had just been released. Certainly out in the last week or two, definitely. Along with Rhythm and Stealth, their second album. But Leftfield, Leftism, which was the debut album for Leftfield. As I say, they also have Rhythm and Stealth, which was Leftism was 95, Rhythm and Stealth was 99, and then basically the band split up in 2002. And there are a couple of subsequent albums, but they're listed as Leftfield. I've heard a couple of tracks on them, and they don't quite sound the same to me. And I need to put this in perspective, really, because I'm not, I mean, if you look up on Google or Discogs or whatever, this is, I don't know, blimey, house, dub, house, electronic, trancey, ambient, whatever, I don't know. It really wasn't and isn't my scene, that kind of thing. But there are a few bands that were primarily in that scene, I suppose, Leftfield being one of them. Others that really kind of reached me, if you like, were Massive Attack, Portishead, Underworld, Morcheeba, Dread Zone. Some of you who are sort of from this scene, which is an awful lot of you, if you're younger than me, might be kind of sitting there thinking, what the hell is this old geezer on about? But the point is, this is music from a scene that was kind of a younger scene than my generation, but transcended over to stuff that not only like but deeply love. It really is incredibly good stuff. Now, Leftism, it's one of I've never had this on vinyl. I heard it on vinyl back in the 90s. Various friends of mine, again, I put an asterisk there. All of these would be younger friends of mine, maybe sort of 5 to 10 years younger than me. They were listening to an awful lot of this sort of stuff, and The Orb and Orbital, and they dragged me along to a few gigs, and they played a few albums and all that kind of stuff. But as I said, there was a few that really, really hit. But anyway, Leftfield, Leftism. One of the ones that really, really, really is awesome in my opinion. It's kind of it's all electronic, but it's very, very spacious. The composition, the arrangement, it's really, really, really good. And as I say, I've had this on CD since it came out. So that's 30 years about, roughly. So, yeah, why did I go and get it on vinyl? Well, because I haven't had it on vinyl before. I do have friends who have it on vinyl from, original. It's been issued a couple of times over the, intervening years. Music on Vinyl did a reissue of it. And, it's a great sounding record. So there's driving kind of bass rhythms through most of it, but it is. I saw one categorization of this as being progressive. I don't know if it's progressive house or progressive dance, I can't remember now, but it is a bit proggy in ways, because you've got this sort of driving beats which are really, really powerful and deep and kind of hypnotic. But at the same time, there's huge kind of layered soundscapes and I would say landscapes of sound, but spacescapes of sound would probably be a better and more fitting description, really. Now, playing the CD, which, as I said, I'm very, very familiar with. It's a great album. It's kind of, it's a bit trippy. It's ambient. It's chill out music. It's lovely. Really, really good stuff. Now you put this on, and right from the word go, it's the space is just in another league. Now, if I'm listening to the CD, I've kind of got my speakers in front of me here, and the whole sound field comes from that sort of space. I mean, there's various sort of guest vocalists on various tracks here. So Release the Pressure, which is the opening track. There's a chap called Earl 16, who I don't know of otherwise, to be perfectly honest. You've got Original on side 2, which is, totally can't remember her name at the moment. Have I written it down somewhere? Tony Halliday. So this is Tony with an I, and she was in a band called The Curve. Inspection, check 1, is Danny Red, who is, I do have some Danny Red, reggae artist. And Open Up, possibly quite famously, John Lydon or Johnny Rotten from the Sex Pistols, PIL, does the vocal on that. And then 21st Century Poem, which I think is rather cool, is Lem Sisse, the poet. I don't know if he's poet laureate or has been, but he's he's a very famous and highly regarded poet. And I've met him, very beautiful being. And the whole album actually kind of feels proggy in a way, because there's, you've got sort of driving, rhythmic, kind of hypnotic, trance-inducing almost songs. You've got very spacious, ambient, sort of chilling out songs. It takes you on a real journey. But whereas maybe a more traditional prog record of the 1970s, early 1970s, might take you on a journey through Middle Earth or Fairyland or Wonderland or something like this. This kind of takes you on a journey through sort of post-apocalyptic space world or something. It really is beautiful. But going back to the sound, as I was saying, so on CD you've got very much a sound field that's between the speakers, an awful lot of depth and an awful lot of precision to the sound. I mean, it's extremely well mixed and arranged and put together. But all the vocals on the various vocal tracks on the CD, they kind of sound like they're in a tunnel. The whole thing sounds a bit like it's in a tunnel or a sort of a clay pipe or something almost. Whereas on vinyl, instantly, as soon as it opens, the music starts. It's maybe 170 degrees or something like that. It's almost, from side wall to side wall, the soundstage. It's absolutely massive. And the way the music is constructed and put together and mixed, there's so many, obviously I'll say you've got these big driving kind of bass lines, and sort of quite a lot of sort of, it's almost drum and bassy kind of jungle drums, sort of going on over that, and then just sort of, other rhythmic elements, little sort of percussive little bits and pieces, or sort of, I guess, synthesized kind of guitar licks, but these kind of, just synthesized sounds basically, and some which sound like good old analog synths. I mean, I don't know how many analog synths were used here, or whether it was all digital sort of computer basically instruments. I really couldn't tell you, but on the vinyl, the way it's mastered now, this particular copy is mastered by Matt Colton of Metropolis, who I think formerly worked at Air Studios, and before that Porky's, I believe. Never met Matt, I don't know him, I don't think I've met him anyway. But if you look at the list of albums he's done, and he's done some really, really good sounding albums. But this one is, it's that, taking the CD space from there to kind of here for the vinyl. It's what he's done is he's just introduced an air and a space between all of those elements, which just makes it more trance-inducing, if you like, more captivating, far more kind of interesting. And the other thing I'd say is worthy of note, on the CD, at first listen, when you listen to the CD, which of course most of you, I guess, records of this era will have the CD rather than the LP. The bass on this, it's, on the CD, it's really tight, it's deep, it's tight, it's controlled, it's powerful. It's kind of shaped, but it's also kind of slightly kind of clipped. And when I say that, I mean in the same way that a Class D power amplifier, if you've heard a Class D power amplifier, it really, really gets a grip on the bass, and you know, at first, second, third, fourth, or maybe, you know, infinite listens, depending on your taste, you'll be thinking this is in another league to any other amplifier I've heard. And the way it handles bass and controls it. And you put this on, and okay, honest truth, on first listen, it's like, oh, yeah, everything sounds bigger and spacious, but the bass doesn't sound as focused, doesn't sound as tight or controlled. But after two, I mean, maybe even over just the second listen, but certainly sort of third listen and thereon, you start to sort of realise what's going on here. And actually the bass it's just playing better, because it's got that, you know, with these driving bass rhythms, it kind of, you know, your whole body, excuse me, you know, forgive me if you're someone who likes dance music and going to clubs and all that, because, you know, it'd be like listening to your granddad trying to explain what you like to you. But, you know, the bass, it's, you know, your whole body wants to move with it. It drives your soul and puts your soul in a groove, so to speak. On the vinyl, that it actually does it much more, because it flows better. There is a more natural, lyrical, melodic flow to the bass, and so it has still got it's got all of the you know, there's parts where the bass is really kind of like, you know, quite, you know, notes coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. And this is synthesized bass. It's not someone playing a bass guitar or bass pedals or whatever. It's you know, so they're doing, you know, sounds that aren't real, so to speak. You know, and that this whole electronic music sort of, you know, revolution, which started the decade before this in the 80s, really, or maybe in the late 70s, actually, you know, with bands like Kraftwerk and that. But it's, once you've heard this a couple of times, you realise it's not actually losing focus. It's gaining air and flow, and it actually has a more natural rhythm. And as the bass is doing its, you know, its groove thing, and then there's these little sort of do-do-do-do-doos kind of coming in, and you actually get the timing relationship, the musical structural relationship, the architecture, if you like, of the music. It still gives you that kind of trance-like kind of hypnotic rhythm, but it's so much more free and natural. And by freely and naturally being able to kind of slip into that rhythm, then all these other little elements, they all, rather than kind of jarring and stabbing at you, they kind of delight you in a way, because they're dancing with the beat rather than stabbing at you with a very hard kind of forced thing. Really don't know if I've explained that in any way, shape or form that makes any sense, but there we go. That's an old guy's description of kind of, as I say, if I went to Discogs, what would it say? You know, trance, ambient, house, you know, whatever. It's lovely, it's beautiful, it's electronic, that's definitely what it is. It's definitely dancey, it's you know, it makes you want to move, it gets hold of your soul, and it puts you into this groove and this rhythm, and kind of takes you on a journey. And anyway, this has just been released on vinyl for, I mean, I say there's been a couple of issues before this, but if you look it up on Discogs, and this is really why I haven't got an original of this, because it would cost, you know, it's probably cost £100 plus. There's a couple on there for less than that at the moment, but they're not mint. I don't think there's an original one on sale in the UK at the moment at all. And there's a few of the music on vinyl reissues. But on the strength of this, and for $25.99, I am extremely tempted to go and get Rhythm and Stealth on vinyl, because it's if it's more of this, you know, I mean, this is a double album for 26 quid. I mean, that's £13 an album, you know. You know, very beautiful record. 2 LPs. Nicely cut, nicely pressed, nicely mastered. Sounds beautiful. Can't argue with it at all. I really do think I'm going to have to go and get Rhythm and Stealth, to be honest. Anyway, on that note, I will say thanks very much for watching. I will hope to be back very soon with the next video. And see you all soon. Thanks a lot. Bye.